Joining us now, great to welcome a man who's written a really fascinating book about his experiences. It's called Drone Warrior, an elite soldier's inside account of the hunt for America's most dangerous enemies. And we're joined today by Brett Velicovich, and I want to get his title exactly right. Former Special Operations Intelligence Analyst, and he joined us by telephone today. And Brett, good to talk with you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have a chance to talk with you. I read through the book, and boy, you really got that where I felt like I was right with you on some of these missions. So it's a great play-by-play account of what you went through.
I appreciate it, and I hope that other readers enjoy seeing this perspective from a whole different viewpoint.
And of course, we're talking about drone military, which I guess we heard a little bit about. You see some of it on those kind of crime shows or NCIS and all that, but you don't know a lot about it. But really fascinating, this whole technology, I guess, that developed about 10, 12 years ago now. I guess it continues to improve, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I really saw this transition when I got into the military of how quickly drone technology evolved and how much it's being used to save lives and to help U.S. soldiers fighting in the field. And we've really seen just even in the last few years this even in the commercial consumer space of drone technology, this just huge amount of organizations that are out there using them, not only for military style purposes, but also for good and using them for humanitarian purposes as well.
Yeah, we're going to get into that, what you're doing now with the drone technology, but you were part of the Delta Force, right? The drone team, and boy, you had some interesting, I wouldn't say adventures, but things that you went through overseas. Was it difficult for you to write about it again, or does it kind of help you to kind of relive it a little bit and put it down on paper?
Yeah, well, I was actually a part of a special operations task force in what I did, and so I worked for a number of different organizations. Right. Under Special Operations Command. And one of the things that was really important to me, even putting pen to paper, was the assurances of the people around me that we were going to do the right thing and make sure the U.S. government was comfortable with the things that we were talking about here, because we were dealing with some pretty sensitive stuff. And so what was supposed to be a 90-day U.S. government security review process actually turned into 22 months. And so it took me longer to get the content in the book approved by the government than it took me to write it. And that's because of the importance of some of the systems that are out there that are hunting terrorists, and also the guys that are on the ground, running into the line of fire, that are risking their lives every single day to go after the enemy. And really, one of the reasons I wrote this book is because I wanted people to know the full story and the truth behind the drone program and the men and women that are using it, and just how many lives are saved. And people like to always talk about, how many people are killed, and what about all these innocent casualties we're hearing about. But very rarely do I ever get this question of how many lives were saved. And that was, when we signed up for this work, that's what we were there to do, was to go after the enemy and make sure in the end it was protecting Americans and the innocent people that we were helping.
Yeah, I always thought, just a little I've heard about it and you read about it or see stories about it, that the surgical ability of this technology, like you said, saves lives in the long run, right? I mean, it takes it right to the enemy, whereas the older way of ground attack, unfortunately, more people get killed that way.
Right. Well, that's what military drones can do. They allow us to go on the offense, right? Instead of having to be reactionary. And that's the whole idea. Is never before in the history of wars have we had this ability to know so much about the enemy. And you think about, Vietnam and World War II, and all, for centuries we've been fighting these wars, and we haven't necessarily been able to go in with all this information about who is in front of us. And ever since after 9/11, when drones became more of a tool used by the U.S. military, we started having this ability, unlike any wars before us, to just really know so much about the individuals we were fighting, and also giving the opportunity to the men and women in uniform to have this ability to be proactive and be on the offense.
What about your training when you went into the military, Brett? Like you said, did you have any idea you wanted to do this, or was it kind of presented to you, or how did you get involved?
So I joined shortly after 9/11. I was in college, and it happened and upended a lot of us, and kind of gave us a new perspective on the world. And for me, it was really the call to service. So I joined right out of Texas there, joined the military, and I wasn't, I never went into thinking I was going to work with drone technology, because drones weren't really a thing at that point in time. So I went in as an intelligence analyst. So I did, I'm not the guy that's flying the drone. I'm not the drone pilot. I'm not the guy, controlling the camera. I'm also not the person pulling the trigger on the ground, like a Navy SEAL, Green Beret type guy. My job was to do the analysis. My job was to pull all that information together. And eventually, when I started working for these Special Operation Task Forces, these guys had access to really incredible tech out there to do the job. And so I would have the drones basically flying missions for me, and then the video would be piped into an operations center that I'd be sitting at with screens on the wall. Imagine a Best Buy where you walk in, you see all these screens. Well, the screens that we had would have the drone feeds following different targets that we were trying to go after. And one of the things that when people read my book, Drone Warrior, they're going to be very surprised that a lot of the reasons that drones are used are not necessarily to conduct a kill or a strike that people may think, but actually to do surveillance and to capture terrorists. So 99% of the stuff we talk about there is actually capturing guys and feeding information to, the brave, special operations guys that are, kicking down the doors and running into the hail of gunfire and extracting these targets so that we can get information on the enemy that we're going after. And so we talk a lot about the structure of that and everything going on.
It's amazing when you see the video quality now, even opposed to when it first started. It's amazing how much you can see from these drones. The clarity.
Right. Exactly.
Talking with Brett Velicovich, and again, the book details your missions dealing with finding the original leader of ISIS and the group of girls that were kidnapped by Boko Haram. We won't get into that now. We'll let the people read about it. But we just got about a minute or so left. Talk a little bit about what you're doing now with the drone technology.
Sure. So for me, my big passion is how can we use this technology for good? How can we use it for things other than military purposes, and especially with the increase in consumer and commercial drones over just even the last few months, and this money that's being poured into these consumer drone ecosystems, I've really looked for ways to help use them for humanitarian purposes. And so we've got a couple projects where we're working with doctors, and we're working with folks doing wildlife conservation, and really taking the knowledge that I was taught in the military and applying it to create essentially these positive impacts on humanity and really help solve some of these more complex problems. And I really think drones are the future, and they're going to be able to preserve life in a lot of different types of humanitarian operations.
Yeah, the name of the company is Expert Drones, and we've been talking with Brett Velicovich. Again, the name of the book is Drone Warrior. Fascinating book, and recommend it to all of our listeners as usual. And Brett, give out your website if you have it, if people can get more information about the book.
Yeah, please. You can purchase the book on Amazon.com, or you can also, wherever books are sold, Barnes & Nobles, or you can also go to my website, brettvelicovich.com, and learn a little bit more about what we are doing. Our social media is The Drone Warrior on Twitter and The Drone Warrior on Facebook, and love to just hear from folks that in ways that we can help spread, and educate folks on the benefits of this.
Great. Drone Warrior is the name of the book, and we've been talking with Brett Velicovich. Brett, again, thank you for your service. Great job, and hopefully we can talk to you again. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or DougMilesMedia.com.